So Jin'e opened with the Azir ban, targeting Goong already. You mentioned that he picks up the gold, and it's weird to allocate gold to Goong when you've got Duke on the lineup, when you've got Okyu on the lineup too. Pure out-and-out carries. Duke, the MVP of spring season. Okyu, as you mentioned, been consistent, hasn't been dying as much, actually has the lowest percentage of team deaths on his team, but the ban from Najin isn't surprising. Jin'e have multiple members that can really use this Lulu, and it's the start of those poke comps that we talk about with that really good wave clear.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Surprises me that Najin would ban Twisted Fate on the red side, considering that Goong is a TF player himself. Braum will be banned, so that is not going to be a first pick here for Jin'e. Could be going for that early Elise, definitely a possibility. Again, that Azir is one of Goong's better champions these days, and Victor will be taken out, a favorite of GBM.
So 3 bans towards GBM, of course. Trace can play the Lulu top, but GBM's KDA on the Lulu, massive. 3-0, 19 KDA. One of the reasons they ban away the Twisted Fate is, although he doesn't develop into a carry player on the Twisted Fate, Teleport Twisted Fate can win games through rotations. And while Najin's been more on point, specifically Duke has actually upped his Teleport game towards the end of the season. This does leave up Kalista, and that's tricky, even for someone like Pilot, who might not be the A+ tier Kalista player, but Kalista's been doing a lot of winning.
He's fine on Kalista. Jin'e has played a lot of Kalista this year. It's actually a pick that gets surprisingly through frequently on Jin'e's side. In the early Kalista days, Pilot and Captain Jack were both sharing Kalista duties, and they did manage to do some good work. And there's Fiora instantly locked in alongside the Elise.
And we do not know for sure whether this will be top lane or mid lane Fiora. We're going to guess top lane. That sounds like a Duke champion. And we've talked about Fiora and Gank, but these were our theoretical picks for the grand final. We did see the Gangplank. We might see it here, but we definitely did not see the Fiora. Only so far Acorn has really broke this out in a massive way. And what a way he did in the China finals.
Yeah, he did. Well, he had one good game, one not so good game.
The good game was just amazing.
It was.
Specifically the 1v4 dive into the enemy base. Like, we don't really know much about the limits of Fiora, and they seem to be pretty lax, because she can do a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, definitely. So the Rek'Sai is available. Do you go ahead and take that right now? One of Chaser's favorite junglers this season. I think you do grab that. And they're going to take away the Kennen. So basically they're trying to take away Najin's ability to play bully laners. Now, will this mean that Okyu switches it up to the Ashe?
Yeah, Okyu's rise was on the likes of the Lucian Kennen, the real lane-dominating viewer, strongest dueling and poking support with a very strong laning champion in Lucian. Now this time, the shoe's on the other foot. Kalista Kennen is actually a super strong 2v2, and then of course you have the ability to throw Kennen into the fight, so it can do a lot of things, can initiate and then be peeled back. A lot of utility there, and looking like a risky Ashe pick already, but just with how the meta's been in Korea, Ashe has been such a high priority, and Okyu showed a carry Ashe performance, and then a really questionable Ashe performance the last time we saw him play.
Yeah, we did. Well, Najin, at the very least, with that Ashe, can set up picks with Fiora and Elise, so we could see a good pick composition coming here from Najin. Now, we don't know whether that Fiora is a mid lane or a top lane. Remember that in Korean solo queue, a lot of these mid and tops have both been playing Gangplank and Fiora, so that could be flexed here.
On the red side, having a flexible champion so strong, because now Jin'e have to blind pick these solo lanes. They don't really have a lot of information. They're going to expect the top lane Fiora because it's Duke, right? Because he is a carry top lane player, and that's where we've seen it so far in competitive, but there definitely is the potential for both. As we mentioned the Malphite, very good laning option, you'd have to think, and teamfight option with the attack speed, so against both Ashe and, of course, Fiora.
And, of course, the Malphite Yasuo combination used by the Ku Tigers, but remember that GBM has been a Yasuo player even when it was a pocket pick outside of the meta, and they've got a lot of strong crowd control here. Problem is, not a whole lot of damage outside of that Yasuo. I think the Diana a better choice.
And the Diana's a better choice as well. The Malphite makes so much sense on so many levels. Tank, role player, excellent being denied laners. Okay, let's just lock in the Gangplank.
That's right. I had a chat with GBM beforehand. He said that he was ready to play GP today, and that's exactly what's going to happen, apparently. Now, the Echo. Will there be a mid lane Echo for Goong? Goong, as the meta rolls back around in favor of Assassins, remember, we haven't seen those LeBlanc buffs yet on the tournament realm. We haven't seen those Zed buffs, but frankly, Najin is a team that, if they can get through this gauntlet, actually is very well suited for the World Championship with those buffs in mind. Lysandra could be another great pick setup to feed Duke's Fiora.
Gotta say, I have a big smile on my face. These are the sort of picks we were talking about while we were waiting for the grand finals to come out. We're like, okay, Fiora and Gangplank going to be severely in the meta. Fiora and Gangplank already both locked in. The Malphite's developed as a career-specific champion. And the LeBlanc, this is a goon standby. Didn't get a lot of work done, did Nagne in the Champions Final. So it's a risk certainly to pick it up, but they're looking for assassination potential in the mid lane.
That's right, so the LeBlanc coming back right now for Goong. Always been one of his better champions. What can he do with it here tonight will be the question. This is a pick comp through and through. Fighting 5v5 with this will be quite tricky for Najin. They lack a lot of AoE, and they have some very squishy champions. Jinair, on the other hand, tons of AoE damage, depending on the itemization of Pilot, but that Malphite engage, the Cannon Barrage, the Slicing Maelstrom, everything going to come through. So pick versus 5v5 will be our matchups tonight.
You know, Fiora's come back into the meta. And the big thing you can say about the Fiora pick is she's really empowered by a couple of things. Of course, the rework making her so much stronger, so much more reliable. But she needs initiation from someone. She's a top laner who can't really get into the backline without a bit of help. Suddenly, Elise, Ashe, LeBlanc, Alistair, all of them can initiate. All of them have hard CC. A lot of tools to help Duke really boss around a fight.
I'm very curious how this Fiora-Malphite top lane matchup's going to go, taking one of the safest top laners, even though he does have some problems CSing sometimes in the laning phase. And this is going to be a trick for sure. Duke is really going to be relied on to carry this game, and should see a lot of movement on the map, a lot of roaming here. And GBM on that mid gangplank. First one we are seeing in Korean League of Legends. And we are going to get into the game right now. Game 1, Najin versus Jinair.
오신 것을 환영합니다.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift, Game 1. The first stage here in the Korean Gauntlet. Najin versus Jinair, and we do see more of what we expected to see from 515 here than we actually ended up seeing in the final.
That's the fun thing, is we talked about all these powerful picks. We said, okay, we've seen Faker playing these champions in the mid lane. Everyone's mixing it up, but we do see them locked in here. So a lot of data points, and really what does these Gangplank mid lane matchups looking? Because remember, blind pick Gangplank mid, so LeBlanc is the answer. How strong is LeBlanc at the moment? Nagne, we mentioned, didn't put in the most impressive performance back at the finals, and the harass is going to be real. So only picking up 2 pots and not picking up a flask might actually struggle in lane against the Gangplank.
And we'll see how he ends up doing. Of course, he won't have the same problem with the Azir trying to get into the back line that he did, Nagne did rather, with the LeBlanc against Faker. And it's a TP GP too, TP GP.
Now, you think about teleport Gangplank, and of course what we usually see, because we've seen the likes of Soaz playing it in the top lane, the teleport impact, the immediate impact is minimal, because of course his real CC threat is the ultimate that's already a global, but it allows him to get through a tough laning phase. So this is a super defensive build. Consider this, going for Flask and Potions and teleport. He's just looking to get through the laning phase, but with the Q harass, the targeted harass onto LeBlanc, there's no guarantee that LeBlanc might actually have some trading issues with the Gangplank in mid.
Very interesting for sure. We will see standard lanes in this game. Kennen and Kalista looking for some possible early kills. We'll see how things can go for them down there. I'm a bit concerned that Najin is picking so defensively for OQ these days, considering that nice trade right there with his passive, getting some true damage down on the distortion in, but just considering that Najin's identity has been a lot of OQ wins lane, Najin wins game.
The lack of illusion in the last couple of weeks has been a bit of a head scratcher, but the Ashe priority, remember, out of nowhere, there was no patch note that really screamed bring Ashe in. Of course, Ashe made weaker after her rework with a couple of nerfs, but still only now do we see the Ashe coming. Again, with the Fiora, I don't mind moving that initiation, the priority on initiation to AD carry seems to be the big utility factor, because of course it's Ash's utility that really seems to open the picks. That was some really nice barrel linking there.
Yeah, that's right. And some days Gangplank was a little disappointing in the final, particularly his build going for some more defensive stats with the Spirit Visage, when you really just have to go kind of all in on damage if you want to be effective. And in this case, another thing that Someday was really lacking was good barrel linking. Part of that was SK Telecom really shutting it down the instant it happened by killing the kegs first. But part of it was also Someday being a little bit slow. So I'm excited to see what GBM can do with this particular champion.
And both of us have obviously been impressed with Soaz from Origin.
Very much.
It's really smart, specifically with the barrel linking. It's just when you do the theory crafting about what the barrels bring to Gangplank as a champion, it gets you really excited. You think about the fact that, of course, Gangplank's Q, it's about 600 range. If you really get the overlapping circles on the kegs exactly right, you can extend that range to 1400 with 60% armor penetration and bonus damage. I know that's a lot of numbers, but it basically means that you can really superpower you and you're just doing damage in a huge AoE, and it really sticks once the Trinity Force, the Infinity Edge, and a bit of armor penetration comes into the build.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, he's a champion that offers so much zone potential too around objectives, choke point control. He's very, very strong in the professional scene.
That was with just Cannon Barrage. Now with the kegs as well, there's so many no-go zones against a Gangplank and a Cannon and a Malphite. Team fight positioning for an Ashe, my goodness, so many things to consider.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a bit concerned about this draft, though. Taking the Fiora so early, I don't really see that as a champion that Trace is likely to play. Not really Trace's style, and Janair has a pretty defined style of Trace is going to play low farm top laners, Lulu, Rumble, Maokai, and Malphite makes sense, but other than that, putting Trace on the carry champion just isn't something that Janair likes to do most of the time.
More than 2/3 of the time, 71% of the time, Trace was on Maokai or Rumble. These by far the two synonymous champions, but Malphite's the most natural extension of that champion pool that there could ever be. It's another tank. It's so interesting to watch this matchup because you think about it on a very simple level. It's an 80 attack speed champion against an armor stacker. So it sounds like it's going to be landslide on the advantage of Malphite, and that may still be the case. Maybe Fiora won't be able to get through, but the addition of sustain and true damage when we're talking about hitting those weak points that of course come through now on Fiora, there is the potential this matchup might not be as tricky as we thought for the Fiora. And if she manages to make it a farm lane, she's probably pretty happy.
We'll see how it works out. I'm still a little bit skeptical about that one. I think Fiora has many good matchups, many better ones than this Malphite, but we'll see what Duke can do, because he pretty much has to go off in this game. They're really, really relying on those picks. You see GBM just going to TP right back to that mid lane turret, and just keep on farming right now. So Janair, double flask, just wants to keep on scaling to that late game. And that's where Janair's going to have a big advantage. If they come into the late game even and they can force an objective like Baron, Najin doesn't really stand much of a chance in a 5v5 unless there are some pretty large team fighting errors.
And Najin just need Ashe to do damage in a late game situation with all the aforementioned backline threat. Just hard to see how they engineer that without snowballing a big lead. Whether it's a split pushing advantage, whether it's a dragon advantage, they need a lead in some objective, otherwise they will struggle in the late game.
Absolutely. Well, no movement yet. GP
doing GP things.
Yep, level 6 right now. So able to affect any kind of ganks. Mostly just farming here in the jungle early. Nice deep wards in there, courtesy of Watch. Trying to control this top side right now. Give Duke a little bit of time to recall. And one ward cleared out of the river, but it's pretty passive laning phase. And Janair is going to be quite pleased with this overall.
Level 6 all-in trade, GBM. Able to sustain through, has the oranges, has the flask, had some potions as well, so pretty comfortable in the mid lane, using the barrels just for a bit of vision. And yeah, the farm game seems to suit them, so expect Najin to make some aggressive rotations specifically around the dragon. Otherwise, farm game doesn't seem to suit them when you've got the likes of LeBlanc in the mid lane.
Absolutely. Well, also those barrels on the sides, just adding a bit of slow in case there's a gank right there. Can just use the parlay to trigger them. He sees anything that might concern him, so very interesting use of those barrels, considering that it's been a relative rarity to see a mid lane Gangplank since the rework.
Only a small data set, we're going to maybe see much more. Of course, still a couple of patches away at the World Championships, so hard to say really where the meta will shake out by then, but can confirm that I believe all matches left in the OGN season, which of course are the 3 career qualifiers, and next week the promotion and relegation games will be played on patch 5.15. So no 5.16 and onwards hijinks just yet.
Yeah, I'm quite happy about that actually. Those changes probably shouldn't come into the professional scene until the World Championship, and we have a chance to see a couple more patches with all of the changes that have been made.
It's going to be a crazy game then, you know, when we're just debuting on the world scene, 5.18. It almost feels like we're back in Season 2 where Taipei Assassins managed to hide their strengths until World Finals. Which team is going to be the smartest at finding scrim opponents, about taking advantage of just a patch that has so little information on the competitive scene?
That's certainly going to be a major factor. Duke, of course, building into the Tiamat. If you guys don't know about, you haven't been watching LPL and you haven't seen the top lane Fiora, the typical build here is going to be Tiamat and Hydra into Essence Reaver. That's what most players decide to go with.
So if you see it in solo queue, it's not a troll Essence Reaver, but it just mana sustain is actually quite a big problem. So of course an auto-attack based champion like Fiora will get that mana passive quite a lot. It builds well, it builds out of the same recipe components as say a Bloodthirster, so quite comfortable there with the BF sword. So the sustain and the cooldown reduction just so necessary. The kit really craves 40% CDR, so even though it's only 10%, getting the CDR is important. It's doing nice little evasive maneuvers there. But in GBM, this is just the reality of this laning phase. Going to get poked out, but if he can keep this farm advantage up, almost 10 CS up, farm advantage and no deaths as Gangplank versus LeBlanc, it's gone pretty good for GBM.
Yeah, it is, and I really love the way he's playing around this lane too, just dropping those barrels on either side, like you said, for vision, but there's also, if you're farming back towards your own turret, a chance to really just chain those barrels together and harass them if they move too far forward. Duke going to try and go in right here, but Trace easily able to back off.
You can see that with the passive, actually able to do quite a lot of damage, true damage, and also the sustain coming through. Duke is winning trades against a Malphite, and this is a matchup that pre-rework would have been awful for the Fiora. It's still not the best, as you mentioned, but it's getting better, and watch, looking for a gank.
Yeah, Warden Tribrush, you really can't gank this one. Just trying to push him off the turret right there. Don't want to risk diving. That's going to happen. There's the unstoppable force. It's a big damage coming in off the Cannon Barrage. Chaser in from behind. Chilling Smite goes down onto Duke. There's the lunge, and they're not... Ooh, that was a terrible flash.
Both flashes, Chaser not respecting the decreased range on the knockup that was put through a couple of patches ago, and then Trace very optimistic with the flash Q. Not really sure what they really hoped to get there, but the result, I like the initiation from Trace when they were tanking turret, but everything afterwards, I don't know.
That was a lot of summoners used. Now, summoners used in the top side too by Duke and Watch, but could have had that flash advantage for sure, and there's just not enough follow-up damage. Of course, Chaser going to be building the Sunfire, and Trace building Frozen Heart first, so not really sure where they thought the follow-up damage was going to come from with the Cannon Barrage already down.
I'm super surprised to see the Frozen Heart Rush. And that might, you know, some of the fans might think, okay, but it makes so much sense. It's a reduced attack speed against Ashe and Fiora. That part's fine. You need health to deal with this true damage. Remember, he was already struggling in trades. The true damage will be a factor. And just picking up the Barmy Cinder for a bit of AoE wave clear, getting the health, maybe even just bit up the Ruby Crystal and armor, I feel like was a better pickup than just really rushing this Frozen Heart, because it doesn't give you that increased health pool, which of course synergizes with the Malphite passive, and it just feels like Sunfire is the go-to rush on Malphite.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Just considering that lane matchup against Fiora, considering that the true damage is countered pretty much only by flat HP, so you can't really do much more than that. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, Pilot and Che going surprisingly even. OQ going for an Avarice Blade, so trying to scale up right here, but there's been no plays on the bottom side of the map yet. Chaser surprisingly passive, and here we go. Trace going to go in. There we go. Repel on top of him, and now he's going to wish he had that flash, and there's the grand challenge. Goodbye, Trace. First blood to watch.
Doesn't have flash, doesn't have health. Ultimate just comes off cooldown. Trace didn't cover himself in glory with that move, but Jinna, being proactive at least, looking to start this dragon, full information over to Najin that this has been started.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that the dragons here are not really going to be a feasible option with Najin's composition unless they get a pick first. And frankly, I'm pretty sure they'd rather have that gold onto Duke and the solo turret gold onto Duke, too, because that's what they need right now. They need to be split pushing with the Fiora more than anything. They're going to get it.
I think there will be an item cap where Malphite can shrug off the Fiora all-in. I'm not 100% on that. Again, I don't have a lot of data points. But to me, there should eventually be a point, maybe Sunfire, Frozen Heart, and another health item where Malphite can go toe-to-toe. But for now, the split pushing for Duke is going to be super effective.
Definitely is. So blue buff taken by Najin, just going in there and stealing it away for Goom. Lots of wards in the blue buff jungle from Jin Air, though. And so we'll see if they actually will try and trade that in a little bit. You can see the nice attempt at a trade, but a little bit late there on the distortion.
This is a game where you really have to appreciate the matchups to know how they're going. So the fact that it's a LeBlanc who really craves early lane control, who really needs to get a snowball lead, whether it's kills, whether it's denying creeps, is behind, means that GBM is doing better than expected. GBM's having a great time in the mid lane. Looking at bottom, Callista Cannon, one of the strongest 2v2s that can really be fielded, but Jin's not known for dominating the laning phase. That's very much an OQ and pure, usually on the champions like Lucian and Kennen special. So the fact that Ashe is now about 18 CS behind, of course, his left lane is now picking up the Krugs, but if she can keep within 10 CS, she also is doing just fine in this laning phase.
Absolutely. And just no punishments. I mean, one of the few times we see a Callista plus a bully support lane where there haven't really been any ganks or plays or dives made in that bottom side in spite of double TPs. In fact, Trace has that TP advantage right now. Certainly could try and do something up against this Ashe. Of course, Ashe Alistar is very difficult to dive, absolutely. But they have the tools to try.
I guess the surprising side comes from Najin. You think about Jin Air, this is a defensively-minded team. Both Trace and GBM consistently are behind 100+ gold at 10 minutes, just looking to farm out the laning phase. GBM on trademark champions like Lulu and Xerath. Trace on the likes of the Maokai Rumble. This is very much a Jin Air speed game, and we think back to the last time we saw Najin. Came out all guns blazing, beat the, I believe it was the Ku Tigers in game 1,
yep,
and then fell away in that series. They were really taking it in what was a critical match for them, and that ended up paying. They ended up paying for that, specifically in the third game, where just over-aggression was their downfall. This time they've drafted aggressive. They've got LeBlanc in the mid lane. They've got a strong ganking jungle in Elise. But just in this stage, in this must-win stage, they're playing really passive, which is just not what we expect from the Najin lineup that really had a surge towards the end of this season.
Yeah, not a lot of roaming either from Goon. In spite of the fact that Jin Air's dual lane has been pushed up for most of this game, and you know, GBM, he plays back, generally speaking. He likes to play next to his turret. He's a very stable mid laner. You know what you're getting with GBM is very defensive laning. And that sometimes opens up the map, but not this time around. Goong just sticking there, farming forever in mid.
I know we've had our disagreements about where GBM rates in terms of top mids in this league, as we're finally seeing another duel, but with the level and item advantage, really nothing Trace can do. But I don't think GBM's a bad mid laner. He is what he is, Duke.
Yeah, gonna go in right there. There's the slicing Maelstrom. They're gonna try and get him. Ignite goes down, and that's going to be a kill for Che. Chaser zoning out Watch right there. Not enough vision to justify pushing that far forward.
And you say that, there's a lot of vision on the map, just not used.
Yeah, well, he couldn't see Kennen coming in right there either through the lane. So there was that possibility of the lane gang coming in, and you do have to respect the many angles that Rek'Sai could come out of.
But with 3 wards in the area, still fell to his death, and Najin playing around their point of pressure. They took the last blue buff, they have the turret down. I like what they were doing, but just it appears just not in a robust enough way, because now Trace gets to push out, go back, finish the Frozen Heart, and theoretically get back into this lane, or inch back into this lane.
Gonna have to give up the cannon minion though, as he does see Watch waiting in the brushes, and he knows Duke's TP is up, and this is Trace too. Trace is a player who has exceptional map awareness. When it comes to decision making around safety in the lane, he so rarely dies in the laning phase. Did die this game, that's atypical, but just plays a very conservative lane, will choose to lose CS and waste the jungler's time rather than try and play aggressively for the farm.
I know another player like that. His name's GBM, Monte Cristo, but they're both on the same team. And the greatest irony is that we talk about roster swaps in Champions. One of the ones that you always put forward is GBM to Najin, because Najin have a carry top laner, Najin have a carry AD carry. They have the mindset of picking up a lead, of hitting that flame horizon, of getting ahead. Surely a defensive laner like GBM might actually suit Najin to a T.
Yeah, well, I definitely, it's been my theory for this entire year so far. is just send GBM to Najin, see what he can do, because what does Najin need? They just need, like you said, defensive mid laner, one with a wide champion pool. GBM doesn't have problems picking up new meta champions.
Here he is.
Yeah.
On the gangplank. You know he can play that Fiora mid. Definitely a guy who can mix it up. So, bit of an irony they're playing off here today, but Jin are getting this passive laning phase they yearn for. And man, gangplank, when he hits 3 items especially, can really go off in the late game.
Yes, he can. Well, Duke just going to poke his head in right there. Attempted steal, but the wards will allow GBM to safely walk in there and take that blue buff, so not another denial coming in. Pilot has the Blade of the Ruined King. Looks like he will be going into a Hurricane next, and that's what they really need. They need that damage.
I think it's the right build. I'm not always the biggest fan of Blade of the Ruined King first, but when you're against a Fiora, specifically, any melee carry, like an Aurelia, you want the Blade of the Ruined King to help with your kiting. As the damage trades, you can see, slightly going towards Duke because Dragon is on.
So once again, Jinair taking a hold of that Dragon and taking it down. There it goes. So 2 Dragons up already. Jinair going to be quite happy with that this early in the game. And Duke not having such an easy time against Trace anymore. Watch going to come in, take a turret hit to the face. Che just waiting there for a possible dive. They want him to try and make some sort of play. And this time, you can see that Najin learning from their mistakes. This time, Watch is already there when Duke presses forward. They want to put the pressure. Finally, Goong on the roam. Che is waiting. Gonna be seen. There we go. Gonna come in. There's a slicing maelstrom. Oh boy, what a bad dive. Duke may pick up 1, but here comes GBM with the TP. And are they going to finish off this kill? Trace on the run right now. GBM coming around the side. There we go. Flash, and the brutal strikes will finish it. Goong looking for the Malphite. Remember, Trace doesn't have any kind of MR, so this could be painful, and it will be quite painful.
Doesn't have any health either, so not the magic resist level, not enough. Still was an overdive from Najin. Specifically, Goon needed to be leading with a ward, didn't have one. Actually did, has a warding totem, so didn't lead with a ward. Didn't see Kennen until it was too late. Real big misfire, and GBM's gonna punish it with the mid lane tower. We already saw the bot lane turret go down as well. Goon really needs to make them pay, but realistically isn't gonna be able to take out this inner turret.
No, he's not. Especially he watched GBM walk out of the mid lane, so he starts to be concerned that that could be turned around. But yeah, Goose comes around the side, and Che already gets into position by the time the slicing maelstrom goes down.
Even though he's super squishy, it doesn't matter. The damage was dealt. Just specifically getting the stun under the turret. Duke eventually dies. Much more slippery on Fiora now that the Q is not a targeted dash. Now you can just go freely away as a defensive mechanism. But Che has really made the difference on these roams.
Yes, he's been there every time, and like I said, you could see that Watch had a different idea. Najin played that push correctly that time, but they didn't account for the fact that the Kennen was waiting there, caught off guard, and pulled the trigger a little bit too eagerly when they couldn't see the Kennen on the map.
You'll be pleased to see that GBM has been cribbing notes from SOAS. His build, of course, was the Yomu's Ghostblade, Trinity Force, and Infinity Edge as the 3 damage core, and with the Avarice Blade in the infantry, looks like GBM's a fan.
Yeah, we'll see which one he goes for first, though. He could just be using that. Oh, wow, nice dodge there. On the chains, Goom getting a little bit of damage down. Not enough to make a terribly large difference.
So you were talking about using it for income, like the good old Gangplank days. Many Avarice Blades and Fairy Charms as possible.
But with that longsword, probably, you're right, is going to be kind of brutalizer into Ghostblade.
I do miss Philosopher's Stone sometimes, Monster.
I do too, buddy. As a mid-Gangplank player myself, I do too.
Where was your sweet spot? How many of them back in the stacking days? 2, 3?
Yeah, you only need 2 for the Gangplank.
2, then an Avarice, 2 Avarice, couple of heart of golds. Good days.
Good times. No, that was actually terrible. It was a horribly boring way to play League of Legends. It was good for Gangplank, though.
Nostalgia, that's how it works, Monty. Everything before was better.
No. That's why I laugh. People will say, well, Season 2 was the best time. I'm like, you don't remember how boring Season 2 was.
No, the AD carry mains are the loudest ones. Have you noticed? They're all like, it was the best. It's because the AD carry position was horribly broken. Remember that green part? Good times.
Yeah, that thing was quite skillful to use.
The win more button.
Okay, we have Zeeks for that now.
It's true, but it's not something the AD carry gets to pick up. And
yeah, even better for the AD carry. They don't even have to spend money on it.
yeah, that's true. Supports also don't miss Season 2. I guess they liked 10 pink wards on the map everywhere, but having gold is nice too.
I think Oracle's supports.
Which oracles though? The forever oracles or the 3-minute?
The forever Oracles.
The ultimate windfall. Green pot for the AD carries, Oracle's elixir for the supports.
Interesting. Duke actually going for the Black Cleaver instead of the Essence Reaver this game. So, still gets that cooldown reduction, still gets that armor.
But gets the Rage passive, so on a melee champion especially, the movement speed and just the ability to get around the map now might have sustain issues, so maybe you'll look to pick up the blue buff. You know, they have been contesting that blue buff because they took out the early turret, but from our experience, you need some sort of mana regens, whether that's a Sheen or just the Essence Reaver like we talked about, to make this champion work, specifically in the late game.
So just trying to farm up as much as possible, get out. He has accrued quite a heavy CS advantage in this top side so far, but he's got to do more with it right now. Jin Air with that slight lead is a problem for Najin as they start to approach another dragon in just a few minutes' time. I mean, Jin Air, jeez.
That was sick.
GBM is really good at using these barrels. I love the way he's playing this lane.
Now, he's good at using the laning barrels, but the crazy thing about this champion is you need to be smart about positioning them when you're baiting objective. If you're for, say, the pick comp, you need to be smart defensively using them. You need to be good at chasing with them, because of course they can extend the range of your parlay to get a running enemy. But the laning barrels, A+. Gets the check mark for those at least.
Well, especially against a slippery champion like LeBlanc, that is not the easiest to achieve those kind of barrel hits. You have to be very fast. And Duke gonna try and face tank this one. He has to get out with the lunge because he doesn't want to get ulted underneath the tower.
It's been happening very consistently. No cannon there this time, so he'll be relieved about that. First two dragons have already gone over to Jin Air. And I don't need to explain to you, Monte Cristo, how bad it is to have a pick comp and be behind in dragons, because the catch-up mechanic really isn't there in the late game.
I think it's okay if they had gotten more out of this top lane split push, but they couldn't actually pull. Well, there we go. Going to get another turret. But where do you put Fiora now is the problem.
You put a killing the inhibitor, preferably. That's what they would like.
That's true. That's true. But it does put more and more burden on Najin to continuously deport the top side of the map, and that's going to lose them control of all future dragons. So that is a bit of a problem right now for Najin, what their next step is.
GBM must be sitting on a mountain of gold between the +8s and an AoE from the cask and also just the average speed. He hasn't shopped in a good 8 minutes. A bit risky when they're looking for that all-important third dragon to be behind and sitting on, I would guess, around 2,000 gold.
Well, I don't know if they can actually realistically contest this one. They're going to try. They have that bottom turret down.
Fiora
they have
has a lot of AD.
Have that wave push forward, but this Fiora, if they can find someone. However, Najin's warding has been, most of their wards were placed in the top jungle to protect Fiora. Now they haven't been setting up for this dragon that is now live. So how are they going to get a pick right now?
Najin has learned about not face-checking Malphites, so maybe they'll respect the Malphite this time.
Have they? Have they, Papa?
I mean, there was actually a ward there too, so I'd really hope so.
Try and clear this out just a little bit more, landing that barrel in the brush. And then taking out the pink ward. So this looks like it should be pretty uncontested. Fiora may try and push up the mid lane right here, and that's what they're going to do. Will be secured by Kalista once again. Pure running choke defense right now, and they're just going to rush up the middle. So Najin responding with some more gold for themselves, but it's only a less than 1K actually lead.
I mean, a lot of that's on Gangplank though, of course, with the +8 from the Q and also the average space, getting 10 gold more. And remember, what does a range minion give? Like 16 or 18 gold? That's what? 60 to 70% bonus gold every minion?
Yeah, that's pretty huge. 18 gold right now for those ranged minions. So 25 for a melee, and that
Infinity Edge is finished right now, 100%.
Well, we'll see what he wants to finish first.
Waiting for him to go back. We know he's sitting on a mountain.
Waiting for it. He's waiting for it. May have been close. There we go. Quite have the money for it.
That is a lot of items.
That is a lot of items for 30 minutes.
He only needs the Yoma's Ghost. That's only 500 gold on top for the 3-item build. Finished at what? 30 minutes conservatively? Assassinate the Gangplank, or a lot of damage coming your way for Najin?
I don't know where Najin goes right now. They have to start seriously setting up some arrows and some Elise cocoons to make the picks, because otherwise Jin is simply just going to choke them out around these dragons. There's not enough vision to really do much right now. The Fiora is trying to get some more turrets, but that's just not enough of a gold lead.
And the thing is, they've been doing the right kind of thing. They understood, okay, get a lead in our top lane, and he needs to be able to split push, take some turrets down. They understood that they had the control advantage in mid, but they're doing the minimum. They got the inner turret to swap for the third dragon. The dragon control got them a turret, and then very much later an inner turret. They needed to be pressing these advantages 5 minutes early. It just feels like they're behind on their timings, and now it's just on Jin to make them pay with the team fights.
Well, the big part of that too was Najin failing to put the pressure on the top side in 2 different ganks or trading evenly. So that's not setting up for the actual aggression properly, and not pulling off the plays has slowed down or perhaps even nullified their snowball in this game. And my God, GBM is getting so scary, and he's the guy you can't pick off. You have Ashe. Good luck trying to track him down.
Say that, I mean, even if he cleanses the first CC, the burst damage will take an A. He's a very low health force. It's mid-range for a melee champion, but he's got no magic resist unless Chaser is sitting on top of him. So he is assassinatable, but you're right, it's hard to pick him out of position. But they just need to put all their focus fire on killing GBM, because he is utterly incredibly strong.
Absolutely.
He's going back for the Yomas.
Gonna finish that right away. That should give him some more, of course, damage, but also help him dodge some of these skill shots with that burst of movement speed.
So think about this. We talked about Rage Passive Fiora. Of course, same story with the Trinity Force. Activating the Yoma's Ghostblade to get the extra movement speed. You're running so much faster than your enemies that hitting those fadeaway casts, sniping people with your powder keg is actually very possible when your flat movement speed is just so damn high.
Yeah. Scary situation.
Oh my goodness. All right then.
All right, random arrow gonna come in. They're looking a little bit desperate to make these picks at this stage. That was such a Hail Mary. Sure, they had set up for it. They had some backup in that mid lane to follow up, but now with that threat down, Jin gonna feel a lot better about sieging. Trace 2 levels down on Duke right now, and that's the real story, of course. Duke about to pass that flame horizon of 100 CS. However, it's not really the most impactful against Malphite. Does it actually matter? I mean, Malphite doesn't need that much CS to be effective.
Their reliable initiation, though, is Trace, and he's caught slowly losing his turrets. Realistically, he can't do much more than that without help. The only other initiation is Cannon, and a support Cannon running at you. Very rarely going to get the big initiation, might even get assassinated, but falls low. They need to get this teleport play, so the longer it's like this, where Duke is slowly chipping away and taking inner turrets, that's really all Najin can hope for, and that's kind of the worry.
Yeah, that is a concern. 4th dragon coming up in a minute and a half, and here we go. Hello, Baron. And there's the hawk shot coming in. They're going to know this is going down. What is the call going to be? It's nearly dead already. Pilot has about 1 billion spears in that thing, so it's going to be taken in the end. You can't steal that watch, and that's going to be a free Baron.
So Watch has been good with the mechanics, not so much there, as trades very even between Trace and Fiora, but notice no real health items out of the Spectre's Cowl and the Barmy Cinder, so Purchase is going to come in very soon, and with that Sunfire, it's going to start to tip towards Malphite, at least in terms of keeping it competitive in the split push.
And we'll see if, nope, he's going to go for Randuin's next. GBM not having used that Cannon Barrage on the Baron take, but because Duke was so close to Trace, there was no real possibility of a teleport right there to fight at that Baron. Banner of Command now up for Che.
Uh-oh.
Oh, and he's going to get the Slicing Maelstrom up right before he dies. Holy cow. And goodbye, Goong. He's going to get tagged at the end of that one. Wow, Che barely living through that, getting the stun down in the nick of time.
That was clutch. Che was saved by the lock at Monte Cristo. That health was so damn important. This is a Baroned up minion, a Banner of Command minion as well. And they're going to keep pushing.
They are just moving this wave on forward right now. And here we go. Damage down onto the turret as Jin looking just to push this home right away. And Watch barely out of range of that parlay as GBM comes in looking for the damage. Just going to zone him off, take an inhibitor, and back right away. Jin looking pretty good this game.
Now, Jin are looking so much better than the last time we saw them. That's saying something given they beat the Coup Tigers, but just given their downward trend in the second half of the round robin. We built out this Jin Air team as a realistic contender to stop SKT's win streak at the time. That was just around the second half of the round robin. It was one of the last matches of the first half. They fell down. They fell away as a team. They didn't even make it to the finals qualifiers. You can see how close it was. Wait for the Locket Shield. This is what really saved him here. It would have gone down to the Ignite. Lives though, and then Fate's Call. See you later.
Yep. Taking him out and into that stasis, making sure he's going to stay alive, and there's no possible follow-up. Now, Jin Air, one of the things, too, that has been such a problem for them, not only this season, but this year, has been engaging team fights. They have looked super uncoordinated, one player going in, one player going out, never on the same page. But today, they really have looked like they trust each other, maybe for the first time this year.
And happily for them, Malphite's in the meta, and look, this is a champion who's synonymous with the lower brackets of ELO, just because initiation's not easy for anyone, especially in the lower brackets. People never know about initiation. Champions like Ashe and Malphite, both representing this game, are so transparent in that this is the go button initiation. And the fact that Malphite fits the meta and gives them initiation from the top lane that isn't a teleport flank from the likes of Maokai is something good for the Jin Air Green Wings.
Yeah, it is. We haven't seen that big Malphite initiation yet, but it's certainly there, using Cannon well enough for the time being. And here comes the Siege. We went on Jin Air.
Well, here comes the Siege Minion.
Wait, where are you going, Siege Minion? No, why? Baron fell off, so has to walk a little bit closer, but they're going to get that. Look at the side wave control, too, building up a huge wave in the bottom side, coordinating their push around that.
Think about the words we're using about Jin Air. Coordination, the meta coming back to their picks. It was just really intriguing hearing that they've been scrimming for so long. Last played on August 7th, back to the scrim box on August 10th. That's 22 days ago as the poke strong from GBM, but this team was raring to go for this match, their next competitive match, potentially their last for the year if they don't win. And at least in game one, okay, they were given a long leash by a team that really should have snowballed further, but at least they're all playing together, which is more than can be said for Jin Air for the majority of summer season.
Yeah, definitely true. So GBM setting up those barrels, and if anyone tries to defend this turret, get on top of the 80 carry, there's a, okay, he's going to W that, so no problem right there. Trace going to eat a stun too, but it's not really going to be enough. Jin Air just continues this merciless pressure, and another thing, Jin Air just hasn't looked clean in closures, but they're smart and they're right to keep putting pressure on right now. They're not backing off. They're trying to drive it home as soon as possible.
That's why it's important that we keep drawing attention to this side minion wave push, because they were not able to engineer this. Multiple games where they got, what, 3 Barons, a couple of 5th Dragons, and couldn't close out a game. Didn't want to dive, didn't have initiation. Trace takes a little damage. It's going to be fine. It's going to dissuade a dive, though, and buy time for an Argentine. But to what end? Because the Ash Arrow, it's not going to do you just for solo initiation this game.
They're actually going to lose 2 turrets off of this minion wave.
Solo.
Oh, 100 HP left, so going to clear it out in the nick of time, but that's very low-hanging fruit for another push in the bottom side in just a few minutes. And I mean, Dragon's going to be up sooner rather than later, and that'll be number 5 here. So Jin Air, a bit of a cakewalk, honestly, in this game. There wasn't very much resistance from Najin.
Which is strange, because they are the ones that picked the proactive comp. They're the one with Elise LeBlanc, which is pretty much the go button for make picks happen in the mid lane or around the mid lane, because Goon could roam. He just never roamed. He felt anchored to the mid lane, despite the fact that he was against the ultimate passive laner in Gangplank, who, you know, has to queue and use his mana for lane control on the enemy, but he doesn't want to. He wants to use all that mana to get the +8, to blow up the kegs. Got through the laning phase, even in CS or down by 10, which doesn't matter. And of course, an even laning phase when you're getting 60% more gold for every minion means that at this point, you've got all the items.
Well, we're just probably going to wait it out here for another Dragon. They're going to try and push up that minion wave as best they can in the bottom side to at least threaten that turret while simultaneously going for the 5th and final Dragon stack. Jin Air needs to make sure they... Jeez.
He's got a Randuin's and a Thornmail, by the way. Of course, the Thornmail not doing very much when it's got 60% bonus armor penetration from the explosion, but that's something.
I'm very impressed with his Gangplank play. He really seems to know what he wants to do on this champion. The team is playing very well around it too.
Speaking of playing very well, they've made a really aggressive rotation into top. All the pings have come. We see people coming back, but this turret's so low, it's going down.
Nobody there to actually save it. They got too concerned with trying to control mid with the Baron spawning in 30 seconds. And they're going to go, I don't know if you should commit to this inhibitor right now. Yeah, just back off. There's the hop away from the arrow.
Pretty casual.
Yeah, OQ has yet to actually really hit one. He hit one on the Gangplank, but that didn't matter.
They're happy to back away. Look, they could probably pick a fight. Chase gets hit on the back end, but JAG got the objective they wanted. They're backing away. 4 dragons in the pocket, the next one in 45 seconds. Why bite off more than you can chew? They're in prime position for the Baron and the 5th dragon, and that's scary for Najin.
It is. So they're going to try and set up a pick right here. Going to eat a Spider, bursting the Banshee's Veil onto Trace. They're trying to bait off the big keg play. Trace will just, or Chaser rather, will go ahead and recall. Has that Void Rush.
Malphite's looking for a flash ult. For the particular way to get that, that's why they're waiting so long. As anyone face checks, they will die to the instant explosion from Gangplank to Malphite. But smartly, Najin realizes there's no win conditions over there, so just don't go on that brush.
Yep, and look at this. I mean, JAG just waits, gets the Void Rush. Why not just walk back into the inhibitors? You got 2 open right now. I mean, honestly, you'll trade a Baron for that every time you see this. Oh, they should just take the inhibitors, actually.
This feels like old JAG.
Potentially a mistake. There's the cannon barrage going down. They want this fight. GBM now back up. Pure going to knock him out. Are they going to take this? And he steals it with the barrels. 1,100 damage on that barrel. Puts it out of smite range. And there we go. Everyone from JAG piling in. Duke the first to die. And this will likely be the game for JAG.
The barrel mechanics are real. Remember, the bonus damage, the 200 bonus, that doesn't even apply because it's only to champions. That's just from all the AD that Gangplank was able to pick up. And now everyone's a free kill as they try and get away to what is now assuredly a JAG victory.
Yeah, they have the Baron, they have the giant minion wave, and JAG looking quite ready for this match. Getting some very powerful picks, it has to be said, in Kalista and Rek'Sai, picks that they probably shouldn't be allowed to get in the next game. But when all is said and done, oh my.
Well, this is Gangplank. This is what happens when you get a free farm lane. He didn't think LeBlanc would be that matchup, but GBM proved it was, and GG to JAG.
Wow, nicely done by JAG. Really clean shot calling in that game. I got a little bit nervous about that Baron. I think they could have just taken the inhibitors and called it a day, but they come back, steal the Baron with those barrels, and you know, like I said, once you have enough damage, he can actually just do more damage than Smite, so just go for it, I guess.
We saw GBM with the finger cannon on the stream, shooting away Najin's hopes in game 1. What I'll say about JAG, Chaser didn't carry in the early game. Najin's lack of decisive play really did. So if JAG gets punished in the early game, maybe they can't round out